Y'all know I wrote a book, right? It's called Buy a Game and it's free. Click the link down there, you got it.
DreAllDay.com.
Periscope, we about to talk about the times when you get forced to think. The times you are forced, you don't have a choice. It's not that you thinking, you choosing to think, is when you have no choice but to think. And I'm gonna tell you where I got this from. Let me know your name, where you from as you check in. I like to shout some people out. I appreciate everybody who's been giving me 500 hearts in the stream. I do see that. You go and give me 500 hearts in the stream, I'm recognizing. Thank you for all the hearts. I appreciate all the hearts. What's going on? Who is that? Roca, what's up? Marco Polo, that's Dre in Orlando. What's going on? Shout out to Orlando. Shout out to Disney World, Mickey Mouse, Goofy, Minnie Mouse. Shout out to that ride where it feels like you falling in the elevator. I like that ride. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I'm reading this new book. I just finished this book called So Good They Can't Ignore You by Cal Newport. What's good? What's going on? I can't even see all y'all names. What's up, Marquise? Checking in from Vegas. Shout out to Las Vegas. What up from Fort Lauderdale? I just finished this book called So Good They Can't Ignore You by Cal Newport. That's a great book for anybody who's trying to figure out what they're going to do business-wise with their lives, because some people think they should just follow their passion, but that's not always the best path. And his book is all about why that's not always the best path and how you can find the right thing. So read that book. And then the new book that I'm picking out is called, the new book that I picked up is called Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. Hi to you too, whoever that is. I can't see y'all screen names, but I can see the text. And Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. He's the guy who wrote Think and Grow Rich. And one of my favorite books is called The Law of Success. If you never read that book, read The Law of Success. Outwitting the Devil is a book where he's basically uncovering who the devil was and explaining it to the people. And the crazy thing is, Napoleon Hill wrote this book in like the 30s, 1920s, 1930s. But he never put it out because he was afraid that if he put it out, all the religious people would like blackball him. They would basically go against him so hard because they didn't like the things he was saying in the book, because I want to encourage you to read it. But one of the things he talks about in the introduction is that, for those of you who don't know Napoleon Hill's background, he wrote the book Think and Grow Rich. This guy named Andrew Carnegie, who any of y'all heard of Carnegie Mellon University or the Carnegie Steel Company. Andrew Carnegie was one of the richest men in America, and Napoleon Hill was trying to make money to go to college. So Napoleon Hill's idea was that I'm going to interview all the most successful people I know of, and I'm going to put all of that down into like notebooks or magazines and stuff like that, and then I'm going to sell that information to other people because people want to know how to become successful. So I'm going to write it all out and I'm going to sell it. So then Napoleon Hill went to Andrew Carnegie with his idea. He said, listen, Mr. Carnegie, this is my idea. I'm going to interview all these people. And Andrew Carnegie said, well, listen, if you're going to do all these things about how to become successful and write it out, listen, you might as well also factor in what are the things that make people become unsuccessful. What's up to you too, Andy from Cali? You need to write out all the things that make people become unsuccessful, because they need to know the failures as well as the successes, because if they understand both sides, then they'll be able to make sure that they reach success. And he said, well, in order for you to do this, Napoleon Hill, this is Andrew Carnegie talking, you're going to have to work for like 20 years straight coming up with this philosophy, doing all these interviews, putting everything together and putting it into one package that everyone can understand. And he said the only thing with that, though, Napoleon, is that it's going to take you 20 years of work, and doing these interviews and gathering this information is not going to make you any money until after, of course, you published it. So during this 20-year period that you're gathering all this information, I can't pay you. Nobody else is going to pay you. You need to come up with ways to make money while you're doing all this stuff. And then he said, on top of that, he said, Napoleon, you're not going to get the proper credit or recognition for the things that you write in this book until probably 100 or so years after it comes out. And where are we now? It's not even been 100 years yet, but now everybody's talking about Napoleon Hill. Now everybody's reading Think and Grow Rich. And one of the things that Andrew Carnegie said is that in order for people to really become successful, what they had to get in touch with is what we call the other self, quote unquote other self. And each one of us as a human being has two other selves. One other self is a self that is negative, basically fear. All the negative reasons why you can't do anything, all the negative stuff that people have said to you, all the things you tell yourself about why you can't be successful, that's one of your other selves, and that's the one that keeps people unsuccessful. And then there's the other self, which is the one that is basically that something within you, is all the confidence, all the power, all the ambition, all the motivation that gets you moving and really gets you going in life. And this is what Andrew Carnegie said to Napoleon Hill. He said, in order for people to get in touch with that other self, he said, usually 95% of the time, the only way people get in touch with that other self is when they reach the point where failure has overtaken them to the point where they have no choice but to sit, think, and analyze Why is it that I failed? Why is it that I was overcome with this failure? Why is it that I was unable to achieve success? And they are forced into a situation where they have to say, what did I do wrong here? How can I make sure this never happens again? And the whole time that I'm reading this is like the first chapter. If you follow me on Instagram, I posted this screenshot on Instagram today. My Instagram is at Dre Baldwin. My Snapchat's the same thing. You look at my Instagram right now, that picture is up there from this book that I just started reading. And the thing Andrew Carnegie says is, listen, people are only going to get to that point where they get in touch with that other self, that unstoppable power that we have within us. You only get in touch with that when you get to a point where either A, you are super overcome by being activated, excited, and motivated about your life, or B, you are overcome with failure. You're faced a situation that's kind of like an emergency situation. Like you are completely broke, you almost die, your business goes under, your wife leaves you, something happens tragic in your life where you like, all right, I have to make a change in my life, or things are just not going to get better. When that happens to people, that's when they really get in touch with that other self and everything happens. And when I was reading that, the first person I thought of as I'm reading it, it sounded just like a chapter out of the 50th Law, this book by Robert Greene and 50 Cent. Y'all know 50 Cent, the rapper. He wrote this book called The 50th Law with Robert Greene, who's my favorite author, same author who wrote 48 Laws. And one of the things 50 said in that book, is an excerpt from that book. I look at this almost every single day, and I don't even tell people about this, but this is one of the things I look at every day. 50 said, and this is out of the book, The 50th Law. It's actually the last page of the last chapter. He said, when I almost got killed, I said to myself, because I know 50's story, he got shot 9 times, he came back and became a rap star. He said, when I almost got killed, I thought to myself, you know what, this could happen again any day. I better hurry up and start doing what I want to do. And from that point forward, I started living life in a way that I had never lived life before. And he said, what happened to me was the fear of death was no longer overcoming me. I was not overcome by the fear of death because I had looked death right in his face. Somebody standing right next to your car shoot at you 9 times. That's pretty much as close to death as you can get without dying. He said the fear of death was completely gone. And at that point, nobody could bother me and nothing could stop me. And then you look at somebody like 50 today, when he gets in, a rap controversy or a rap conflict with another rapper, it's like he could take it as a game because he's not afraid of anything. He's not afraid of getting in a fight. He's not afraid of somebody trying to kill him because it already happened to him. He's not afraid of losing a deal. He's not afraid of losing an endorsement contract. He's not afraid of anything because he came that close as you can possibly get to dying without actually dying. And the reason I thought of 50 is because this is what Napoleon Hill said Andrew Carnegie told him was going on, Czar. He said, when you get to that point where failure almost overcomes you, and dying is pretty much failing, right? When you get to that point, you're no longer concerned about fear. Fear doesn't bother you anymore, and you are forced to look at everything you're doing in your life and saying, what did I do wrong? What mistakes did I make? And that's exactly what 50 did if you read the book. I'm talking about 2 different books. So I'm giving an example from a book called Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill, but I'm talking about what it reminded me of was a book called The 50th Law by 50 Cent, the rapper, and Robert Greene, my favorite author. And one of the things 50 said was, after he almost got killed, he had to examine everything because he's laying in a hospital bed for weeks and months. All he had was thinking time. He couldn't do nothing. He couldn't go nowhere. He couldn't rap. He said, all I could do was think. And I started thinking, where did I go wrong? What mistakes was I making? Who was in my team who was disloyal? Who could have had this whole thing happen and I can make sure this doesn't happen again? And more importantly, what am I going to do with my life? Like, I have a son, I got a girlfriend, I'm rapping, but I'm kind of on, but I'm not really on, and my rap career is pretty much dead right now. How can I avoid all of these mistakes from happening again? And all the answers that he got from asking that question, which is a great question, how can I make sure these failures never, ever happen again? Because these failures led to me almost dying. I don't think I could survive getting shot 9 times twice. He said, how can I avoid all these failures from happening again? And when he asked that question, all the answers led to 50 Cent, G-Unit, and him selling 10 million records or whatever he did, becoming a millionaire. All of that came from the good question he asked is, how can I make sure this never happens again? But the thing is, he had to come close to almost dying for that to happen. So how can that work for all of you without getting shot 9 times? Even me, I never got shot. How can you make that work for you? Is that you have 2 situations. Either A, you can let failure overcome you. It could be a failure like a bankruptcy, or you going broke, or you being homeless, or your wife leaving you, or you getting embarrassed at basketball tryouts. Something has to happen to you where you have to say, all right, I can never let this happen again because this is the lowest of the low. Or B, you get so activated, so charged up, so excited about where you're going and what you're doing in life that you force yourself to think and examine, what mistakes am I making, what's not working, what's inefficient in my life, and how can I make this the perfect way for it to work. Thank you, Wonder Woman, for inviting followers. What is the perfect way for me to make this work? You have one of two choices, ladies and gentlemen, because you either going to be at the bottom where you like, I can't be at the bottom again, or you got to get yourself to the top mentally conditioning yourself so that doesn't happen again. Shout out to New Jersey, so that doesn't happen again. The last place you want to end up, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you what you don't want to do. You don't want to be in the middle where you're not that excited about your life that you're going to just get activated and figure out how to optimize everything, every area of your life, asking yourself that good question. And you don't want to be, you won't be the person who's always down at the bottom where you're like, I have to examine this because this absolutely cannot happen again. You don't want to be stuck in the middle of that bell curve where you're like, it's not so bad that I got to change and it's not so great that I'm excited about it. This is where 95% of people in life live, right here in the middle. It's not that great and it's not that bad. Everything's okay. I'm all right with the status quo. I want to keep things how they are. I got too much on my plate. I don't want to try to do too much. I don't want to try to chase two rabbits because I won't catch either one. Those dumbass quotes and cliches that people say. Don't get caught in the middle of that. You got to force yourself to get in that position where it's either A or B, ladies and gentlemen. I got somewhere to be right now, so I got to wrap up. Make sure you follow me here on Periscope. Snap me at Dre Baldwin, Instagram, Dre Baldwin, Twitter, DreAllDay. You want to talk business, hit me, Dre at DreAllDay.com. I'm going to talk to y'all later. Y'all know I wrote a book, right? It's called Buy Again.